it's diabetes, whether it's cancer, whether it's AIDS, people have immunodeficiencies, and those people are required to help themselves, which means wash their hands, stay away from people, wear masks. It doesn't change when COVID changes. It was there before COVID started. And so we are a organization to try to basically advocate for those people, to show that when we're out there cleaning things, wearing masks, that we're not sending a message to anybody. We have to do it for our health. And so I've started a 501c3. We've created a logo that we hope will span across all these silos. And that logo would say, I am immunodeficient. Please respect the fact that I can get sick from your virus, from your germs. I am not sick myself. I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not making a political statement. I'm just trying to protect myself and live the best life I can. And that's sort of the bottom line of what we started here. So we're working across a lot of organizations now to try to bring that logo into the identifying mark of somebody that is immunodeficient, sort of like in big picture, the Nike swoosh. If somebody sees this mark, and I'll show it to you later, it will indicate I'm immunodeficient. I'm wearing a mask for a purpose. I'm wiping down my seat for a purpose. I'm wiping down the elevator buttons for a purpose, not because I'm scared to death of something. I'm just trying to live. So I'll leave it there, and we'll talk a little bit about it later. Okay.
Yeah, thank you
Okay.
for your comment and perceptions there. I appreciate that. We'll come back to you shortly. Well, at this point, we have the opportunity now to bring back one of our world-class authors, and he has 4 books that we are delighted to help present to you. Dr. John Putalili. How you doing, Dr. John? Good to see you. You look great.
Yes, thank you for having me, and I welcome everybody's attention, and I appreciate you asking me to do this.
Very good, very good. So a lot of spin has come about now because of diabetes, and more people have become aware of your theories and theses and understand how they work and will cooperate within our mainstream health regimes. So it's your time. You tell us. We're listening.
Well, what would you like to know first, about diabetes or cancer? As Mike has introduced the immunodeficiency, maybe I should start there with cancer, because what Mike is saying, or Mike just said, is so important and critical for that segment of people. Okay. However, we can use that as a jumping point to talk about everybody, because what Mike is saying is we expect people to have a certain amount of immunocompetence. And if you are born with a defect or a manufacturing problem where the immune cells are not produced in sufficient number, or the antibodies are not there in sufficient strength, then you are immunodeficient. Compared to what? Compared to what you expect to be normal. So how does the normal get established? That is based on your exposure to the agents, whether it's an infection or whether it's a cancer, whether it is anything that is external to your body. Your immune system has to identify and neutralize it. Now, think about this. We may have normal immune strength based on a laboratory number, but suppose the attacking agent is multiplying faster, or the cancer cell is multiplying faster. Now you have a relative deficiency. In other words, you are similar to an immune deficient person. Instead of being naturally deficient, now you are relatively deficient because your cancer cells are multiplying faster. or your virus is multiplying faster. So you are in the same boat, so to speak. Now, let's go back to cancer since we are talking about immune system. What is cancer? Cancer is nothing but uncontrolled multiplication of a cell. So that means you need a cell, only cells can multiply. A molecule cannot multiply. A protein segment cannot multiply. The best example is the virus, COVID-19 or any other virus. The virus by itself cannot divide into two. It needs help from a cell. So that is why it gets into the cell, and then the cell multiplication needs a signal. The cells, we have cells, we are composed of 30 trillion cells, but the cells don't multiply unless there is a reason. So if you get a cut, if you get a wound, how does the wound heal? New cells have to be formed. That means certain cells in the body have the capability to divide. They are called the stem cells. Only stem cells can divide. The ordinary skin cell at the top of the skin, they don't divide. The bottom, there is a layer of skin cell or stem cells. So when you get a cut, the cells that are exposed, they send a message to the gene. Every activity of the cell is controlled by a particular gene. There's a growth activating gene in charge of issuing a work order to divide to the stem cell. When the wound is healed, the cells meet in the middle. They send another message, and there is a growth inhibiting gene now issues a separate work order to stop the multiplication, and the wound healed. The multiplication stops. Suppose the gene in charge of issuing the stop work order is incapacitated. The cells will keep multiplying, and that is when you have uncontrolled multiplication and cancer. So we need a cell, we need a signal. In majority of the cases, in wound healing or replacement of lost cells or the liver cells growing to fill up your gap when after a liver transplant, those signals are coming from the outside. Whereas cancer, the signal to multiply is internal. This is a major difference. In wound healing, there is outside signal coming in and the stem cells multiply enough to meet the need. Whereas in cancer, the cell signal to multiply is internal. That means once it starts, the daughter cells have the same mechanism. So they keep dividing. And the daughter cells, they keep dividing because they are all based on internally generated signaling. The best example of to understand the internally generated signaling process, or to understand uncontrolled versus controlled multiplication, the best example is look at each human being. Each human being starts from one single cell called the zygote, which is formed after the fertilization. Now, most people think the fertilization of the sperm and ovum happens in the womb. No, that fertilization happens in the fallopian tube through which the ovum is traveling to reach the womb. During that travel, the sperm actually gets into the fallopian tube and the fertilization takes place in the tube. It takes a 6 days journey for that zygote to come to the womb to be implanted. By that time, that zygote has 200 cells. Think about it. The fertilized egg is traveling through the fallopian tube. It is not connected to the mother, yet it is dividing inside. Where does that signal come from? And why does it stop after 200? And why 200? It is 200 because In the human body, there are 200 different types of cells for different organs and systems. And these 200 are the stem cells that will sustain and create the different organs and systems in the body. Then the question is, why does it stop? Sometimes it does not. That is why you have cancer. Even when they continue the multiplication in the womb, the fetus has multiple cancer cells. It is, in other words, we start our life among cancer cells with a lot of cancer cells in the body. But our immune system is quite capable of destroying 99% of them before we are born. So let me repeat. Our immune system is trained to recognize cancer cells and destroy them before you are born. Sometimes it is not that efficient. Sometimes it happens. They are there. Sometimes cancer cells can happen when stem cells get damaged, either radiation or toxin or infection or different causes of cancer cell formation. Now, I want to make a clear distinction here. Just because you have a cancer cell in the body, that does not mean automatically you will have cancer. Let me repeat that again. Every adult will have a cancer cell, new cancer cell form in the body almost every 10 years. But they don't all get cancer. Why? Because our immune system can take care of it. So then why do we have cancer? We have cancer under two circumstances. One is the cancer cell multiplication overwhelms the cancer cell destruction, or there is a deficient or damage to the immune system, making it more easy for even normal multiplication to overwhelm the immune system. So as Mike said, if you have an immune deficiency already, then you are in bigger trouble. Whereas even a person with normal immune system can get cancer because the cancer cell multiplies faster. So if you have cancer, yes, you have to take care of it. You have to do all what is necessary. So in my book, I'm not advocating not using traditional cancer medications or treatments or radiation or surgery. That is necessary. But even if you are a cancer survivor, what does that mean? That means the detectable methodology will not detect a cancer cell that may still be hiding in your body. Nobody can guarantee that you don't have a cancer cell in the body even after treatment. You do have one. You have to assume that. So how do you stop that cancer cell from being activated? The one that is hiding in the body. In order for the cancer cell to multiply, it requires one, energy. Just like any other manufacturing process, you need to have energy. Second, raw materials to construct new cells. The cancer cell uses glucose, not only for energy, but also construction materials. It is said the cancer cell efficiency of energy extraction from a molecule of glucose is very low. But what my point is, that is by design. The cancer cell needs very little, only 10% of the energy of a glucose molecules to create a second cell, but it needs material. So the rest of the glucose molecule is used for manufacturing materials. So to construct a new cell. That is why, compared to normal cells, the cancer cell energy use is deficient or not up to par. However, it is for a purpose to use the extra material for construction. So the more glucose you provide, the faster the cancer cell growth. This is why not only cancer cell, for every the infections, the same thing. If you have a person with high blood glucose level, if you are a diabetic, you're not more likely to catch the virus. You're not more likely to develop a cancer. However, if you get cancer, if you catch a virus, they multiply faster because the manufacturing facility now have plenty of energy available. On top of that, when glucose level is elevated in the body, the pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is a growth promoter. It promotes growth of viral production. It promotes growth of cancer cell formation as well as viral production. This is why people who have diabetes have higher incidence of complications from COVID-19. They don't catch it more easily, but if they catch it, the virus multiplies faster because of high levels of glucose and insulin. Whether that insulin is released in the body or injected into the body makes no difference. You are still in danger. So what can we do? Whether you have cancer now or not, whether you have a cancer survivor or not, if you want to control the process, all you have to do is, regardless of the type of cancer, if you reduce the amount of glucose available to the cancer cells, you can slow down the rate of multiplication. And then you can boost your immune system at the same time. Then you are in control. The cancer doctor, the oncologist, does not have to use as much medication because many times the medication itself can produce side effects and complications. So the less medication you use, the better you are. So this is what I am proposing in my book. On the one hand, reduce the cancer growth by reducing the amount of glucose you provide. In the modern day diet, the vast majority of glucose is not the sugar that you put on your coffee, in your coffee, or use for baking. It is the complex carbohydrate coming from grains. Why? 70, 60 years ago, we had the green revolution. Every government is subsidizing grain farming. When is the last time you had a meal or a snack without a grain-based product? 100 years ago, the food energy that each human consumed from grains, complex carbohydrate, was less than 35%. Now, in the developed countries, it is 50%. In the developing countries, it is 70%. This is why the incidence of cancer is increasing faster in developing countries compared to developed countries. But here also it is going up because we are providing the cancer cells a lot of energy in the form of glucose, which comes from grains, all the cheapest food available, all the pre-processed foods available are all made with grains or majority of grains. And this is why we have type 2 diabetes increasing, we have cancer increasing. If we want to save Medicare, the best thing and the easiest way to do it to control type 2 diabetes, because we are spending more than $1 billion a day to take care of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and complications. If you do that, we can save Medicare. Otherwise, we are going to be in trouble. In order to save it, you have to prevent it. In order to prevent it, you need to know the root cause. And I submit to you, if we can cut down the amount of energy you take in daily to half of what you are taking from grains, you can eat everything else the way you are doing, but cut down the energy intake from grains to 1/2 of what you are, we can save a lot of trouble, a lot of money. A lot of people do not have to suffer from diabetes, complications, and cancer. So I will stop here and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dr. John, for that. I really appreciate your contributions here. Perhaps there are, and we will move to a roundtable shortly in a bit to consider dialogue and things that affect our community that way. But so your proposition is that if people were to reduce their intake of grains as a subject matter by 40 to 50% currently, it could directly contribute to the reduction or the aspect of people's health regarding cancer.
Well, not only cancer, even type 2 diabetes.
Uh-huh.
Let's start with that. Let me give a few points about diabetes. What is diabetes? It is based on one symptom, one laboratory test. Your blood glucose level is high.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other confirming test, just
Mm-hmm.
one. Where does that glucose come from? If you don't put it in your mouth, how can it be in your blood? So instead of not putting it in your mouth, you use a medication to drive it out of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If somebody takes an insulin shot, the blood glucose level goes down. Where does it go? It does not go out of the body.
Okay.
How does that help the person?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even if you keep A1C below 7 with medications, with insulin, there's no guarantee you will escape complications of type 2 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how it is rationalized? Oh, it is a progressive disease.
Yeah, I've heard that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it is a progressive disease if you don't have the right treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Every disease is progressive.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So you cannot hide behind that label. We need to start asking
Well,
questions.
well, the label, one of the labels that's has a misnomer is what is that? Insulin resistance. The body's inability, I mean, the resistance of insulin. The body makes its own insulin, but we're resistant, and the pancreas just oversupplies and creates more and more insulin.
Can I comment on it?
Sure, please.
That's a very interesting comment. The question is, how did this come about? This so-called insulin resistance.
Right.
Let me give you the historical aspect of it.
Okay.
100 years ago, 1921 was when insulin was discovered.
Uh-huh.
Before that, children with type 1 diabetes who don't have the capability to produce insulin because their pancreas has been damaged,
Uh-huh.
they used to die by age 10.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When insulin was discovered, it was extracted from the animal pancreas and injected to a 10-year-old boy in Canada who was dying from type 1 diabetes. He lived. It was a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Elliot Jocelyn in Boston, he treated more type 1 diabetics than anybody else in the world at that time. He was so happy that he can offer something to children with type 1 diabetes. He kept a log of all the people he treated. And he came up with the data that showed as soon as you start injecting insulin, their lifespan increased to normal. Their quality of life improved. He published a paper stating that insulin can save your life if you are a diabetic.
Well, I have to interrupt, but
Hold
I
on.
have been, 1 second, hold on. I have been using Dr. John's book, and I have lost 15 pounds.
Thank you.
So
Very good.
I was very addicted to rice. And it was the hardest thing for me not to have a dosa, which is a rice pancake. And I had 2 big, huge bags of rice, and I had to look at it and not eat it. So it was very difficult for me. But I did lose 15 pounds. So, it's like Dr. John says, take a blood test, follow his book. Okay. And if you take a blood test, you'll see your A1C numbers coming down. Now, Donna has a very difficult time recruiting people for life insurance. And so when people have diabetes or serious illnesses, they have a very big problem. So Donna, can you talk to us about this? And it's really important because if you bring those numbers down, you can get insured. So
okay, well,
this is a challenge. So let's
table,
have a round table discussion because I think this is a very good topic on
Yeah,
health.
well, yeah, I know, but I think Dr. John was onto something, and we need to wrap his segment up to move to the roundtable. It has to do
Roundtable.
though. Yeah, right. One item, and then we'll conclude. And if your comments are outstanding, Dr. John, I appreciate those. Someone described foie gras. You have foie gras. People who had liver or chicken livers. I mean,
Duck.
duck
The duck.
livers.
Yeah.
Foie gras. And what they do is, in ducks' cases, they feed them a surplus of certain items to make their livers fatty, and yet make them have fatty livers. And so we eat those, and it's a very unique dish. But the point of it is when you surplus with insulin, or that I was trying to create the parallel, but you make outstanding points about the pancreas supply of sugar. And so, that's going to take one time. Let's just kind of wrap up, and then we'll move toward
Yeah.
roundtable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Dr. John. I had to tell you that I lost weight.
Hold it, Claire.
Yeah. So
Let
into
Dr.
the round table. Yeah.
Claire.
Can I complete the
Yeah,
answering of the?
please.
So when adults came up with high blood sugar, Dr. Jocelyn thought it is the same thing but happening at a later age. So injected them with insulin, the blood glucose level went down. But at that time, Dr. Jocelyn did not have a blood test to see whether insulin is present in the adult's blood or not. Later, then they found out adults who had high blood glucose level also had adequate insulin in their blood. So that created a problem. So one doctor in Vienna, Dr. Falta, suggested perhaps insulin is not the problem, but the cell is not responding to insulin. And that is where the insulin resistance theory came about. He proposed it as a hypothesis. The sad truth is, it has never been validated, never been scientifically validated. It was just a concept which was accepted by the endocrine community for whatever reason. And it is still being continued. All the diabetic treatment is based on that concept, which has never been validated. Because in science, which to validate, you need logic. How come only 3 types of cells in the body become resistant? You need a mechanism. What is the mechanism by which the cell not respond or resist insulin? And the measurement.
Okay.
Now, think about this. If you are resistant to an antibiotic, will the doctor give you the same antibiotic?
Yeah, that's right. It'd be a different antibiotic. It'd be different. Yeah.
But why are you given insulin if you are resistant to insulin?
That's true. That's true. If you're insulin resistant, why are you getting that? That's a very good point. So you're not really, there's just a different caliber of the medication, or different. It's different. One is body made, the other is artificially made.
It doesn't matter where it is made. What is the rationale of giving insulin to somebody who is insulin resistant? We need to start asking questions.
Right. Very good. Okay. I'm running out of time. I always do, but let us move toward a round table.